Okay, everybody. Leslie has agreed to be our clinician. Is that the right way to say it for this month? She's going to show us how to use watercolor paints and an airbrush and discuss a little bit about dry powders and how to do weathering. And I've heard her say that she's open to questions.
If I dropped my mask, it'll be easier for my voice to be smart. Okay. I got tested yesterday at work.
Okay, so we are ready for you to begin your presentation.
Okay. I'm Leslie Eaton, and I'm here to talk to you about weathering and a lot of different techniques. You're going to have your own way to do it, and if you like what you do, keep doing it. I've just developed some additional ways for you to look into. One of the things I have tried that works well are the Div-8 pencils. The reason is the Inktense pencils will work with water. You can dip them and it will kind of turn them into a little bit of a paint. If I get my thumb under there, there we go. And there are some colors you can get that are interesting. This particular one is kind of like a blue-gray smoke. And when you can draw with it, let me see if I've got something here I can do it on.
Paper, backside.
No, I'm looking for one of the cars. Here's a locomotive. So, and you can actually use it, then take a brush that's wet. So here, for instance, now I don't know how well you can see this. And all this is plain water. And I can take it and it will actually start to streak it, and you can see it on the brush. For instance, if you do a lot of wood models, this is a great way to do it if you want to be able to, if you're not quite sure about doing this weathering stuff, you want to be able to play with it. And also on plastic, you can do it, work with it, and practice with it, even on a plain piece of styrene. I did so much practicing on plain styrene. I'd take the styrene, I'd paint it all one color, and then I'd start playing with weathering on it. I would do the same. I'd stain some wood and play with it. And as I said, now you probably can see a little better how it streaks. So it's an option, and options are good. Now, if some of you are wondering what this is a Citadel water pot. They used to make this style. I know you can still get it. They also have a new one that instead of having little different sized loops on the top, they have a slit and you just kind of snap it into it. You can definitely get those online as well. If I was hoping somebody would show here today to be able to demonstrate, if they brought a car. And that's fine. Now, one of before I started doing the paint, I did makeup. I did not do chalk. And there's a reason. Chalk, if you blow on it, it's going to blow away. So when you take your dull coat and try to spray it, part of it's going to blow off. The difference is makeup, there's a little bit of an oil to it, and it will grab. Let me see. Here, I can do it on here. So let's say I want to demonstrate taking this and there we go. I've got way too many brushes. I can take this and are you able to see that?
Yeah. I'm gonna I mean, it's close, but yeah.
Okay, let me try it on different, this will probably be a lot easier
Because it's silver, yeah.
because it's a lighter color. The places that you're going to find that are going to rust on cars are going to be things like we're here where the little
Visits.
divots, the little knots are where they put in. You're going to get rusting there. You're going to get rusting here along the top. So one of the very first things I do on the cars, particularly if this is an inexpensive used one, first thing I do is I wash it. Even if it's a brand new car, I wash it because you still have to get a lot of the mold release off. So, oh, what do I wash it with? A lot of times I use plain water. I also will use alcohol. If I'm going to use alcohol, I use 91%. I don't use the cheesy 73 because the 91 will cut through a lot more garbage.
Leslie,
So,
what was the brand name of the pencil you
you're
used?
going to find rusting here around the bolts.
Sorry, Leslie, the question comes, what was the brand name of the pencils you used?
Derwent, Derwent.
Where might we find those?
Those, Texas Art Supply will have them. Here we go. And they have larger, this is a 12-piece set. They have them individually, and they also have them in larger sets. Is that good?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
you bet. So all I'm taking is a simple, inexpensive brush. I get a lot of my brushes at Hobby Lobby. Right now, Texas Art Supply has a whole bunch of brushes on sale. I bought several and got them. It was marked for $4 and it was half off of that. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Texas Art Supply has several different locations.
I was at the
main ones-
Montrose
The
location.
main one's on Montrose, in between Dallas and Gray.
Now I'm hoping you can see it okay, what I'm doing.
It's much better with the silver.
Yeah. Now, once I've put that on, I need to kind of move it around a bit. So all this is a cheap little brush. Now I can work. And all I'm trying to do is blend it. If we have any women out there, we know about blending because that's how we do our makeup. You put your blush on, then blend, 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 blend. Same thing here. So where else would we get? It would be around the edge here. So I'm trying to do this as best as I can where you can actually see how I'm doing it. So all I did was put it around this other thing. Now I'll blend outward. So does that make sense? Now there's, if you need to, remember when things, let's see, when you blend rust, it also gets lighter in color. So I'll take a slightly lighter color. By the way, these are MAC Cosmetics, M-A-C. They're not exactly cheap, but I've had most of these for 15 years at least. And I'm just now finally getting where I'm starting to get a little bit at the bottom. They last a long time.
So Leslie, the question comes up, you would suggest better quality makeup.
Yes, don't get the, thank you. Do not get your drugstore stuff. Don't go to Walgreens, and buy a whole bunch of stuff. So I can get 50 colors rather than 5 or 10. Yeah, you'll get 50 colors. They won't work. The reason that MAC is used by people like actors, actresses, your TV, your news personalities. The reason they use it is it's got a higher pigment, and that's what makes it different from things like your regular chalks. They have a much higher pigment. So now I'm taking a slightly lighter one, coming out here. And hopefully you can see how I'm doing this, because it's a little obtuse for me from this angle, but
Sorry.
no, that's fine.
There you go, that's a good angle. We're all learning.
Absolutely. But that's how, it's real simple like this. What's it?
I'm just adjusting the camera a little for you. You stay where you are.
Okay. So again, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Now, on trucks, you can use these on trucks as well. Here, I will probably use a little bit larger brush. And you'll notice a lot of my brushes also are very short. And the reason for that,
Darn.
Lost the sound.
JC, can you hear us?
Nope.
Looks like we got a silent movie, friends.
Yeah.
Well, let me call him. Well, he's on his telephone, but Ray's there. Let me call him on his phone.
Mm.
another
Yeah,
place.
sound guy, guys.
Another place is over here on the journal boxes. Now, when you're weathering, dirt, rust is going to be darker at the top typically and lighter at the bottom. And there's a reason for that. Pardon me, but gravity sucks. If you're doing a structure, anything, it's going to give you more realistic appearance. So even on the car here, and then I always move only in one direction, down, whatever way that the water would flow. Can y'all see that? Sort of, kind of. other places where you've got the rivets here. So it gives you a little bit more of an idea how it looks. Now, we need some dirt on there too, because it doesn't just rust, it gets dirty. And by the way, the colors, if you're wondering, that I'm using on the Mac, this is Raisin, Raizin, and this is Copper Tone, just like the suntan lotion.
Just a little. If you're looking for other colors, you can find them at Techland. That's on the corner of Sawyer and Center Street, just behind Washington. They sell all of the theatrical makeup.
Okay, this is a little different.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that is going to be a hard oil base.
Okay.
And that's, I've tried a lot of different makeups, but theatrical makeup is going to be very thick.
Okay.
And that's always going to stay wet.
Okay.
Whereas this stays dry. If I were to give you an example, if I take it and on my hand, notice I'm always moving just downward. Notice how that blends. It blends realistically. And that's the thing that I like about these. I've got some chalks here, and if I do the same thing with some chalk, as soon as I go to brush it to blend it, it goes away. There's just not the pigment in it. Now, some of the other colors that I have, this particular one is called Brun, B-R-U-N. This makes a really good dark fertile soil type color. This one is called Charcoal Brown. The next lighter color is going to be Taupe. And these are all blendable together. So I can take all these different colors, gradually blend them into each other. So if I need one even lighter, there's one called Bisque, which is just barely off-white. So
Would you recommend that for making faded techniques using that off-white?
Sure. Even it's going to depend on what you got. The Taupe, this will work, and the Bisque. And you can even, as I said, you can blend them. That's the best part of these. There's another company called NYX, and they used to have a store at the Galleria. You can find that in Walgreens. So I tried it one time just to see, hey, maybe, because this isn't cheap. I'm gonna be honest, it's expensive. But as I said, if you've got it and it lasts 15 years and, that's your usage on it for something like rust, it's worth it. So colors here, for instance, I would not only see some rust falling, it's kind of tough to do this because I'm kind of blind with what I'm doing. It's difficult for me to see what I'm doing. Usually I'd stand up, turn my back to everybody, and it's a little difficult here, so bear with me. Now, what I can do is take some of the charcoal brown, which is the lighter brown, and blend it with it. Now blending this down, because you're going to see that along where these seams are. Can you see that very well? So. What I may end up having to do is take some photos and post them on my Facebook page, something like that, so that you can see the after appearance. But that is part of how you can, and if I want to get it where I don't have it quite as wide, it looks a little bit more realistic. Again, I can take my brush, and just kind of clean it up. Then once I have it exactly how I want it, then I can dull coat it. This is going to stay. You're not going to be doing a layer of chalk, dull coat it, do more because you've blown half of it off, and back and forth, and then you've got a real heavy dull coat on the car, and it looks funny. So, what is there another question or?
No,
Okay.
actually, I've had the questions for the most part. Trying to stir some lively debate.
And if you're wondering, are the people over at the MAC Cosmetics store going to look cross-eyed at you if you come in? A couple years ago at National, there was right across the street from the hotel was a shopping mall that had a MAC store. So right after my weathering clinic, about 30 people went over there, and I was showing the guys, and the people at the store were like, huh? Well, they took deep notes on the fact that men buy makeup too for models, and they had a good time with it.
That was St. Louis, I believe.
Okay. My husband says it was in St. Louis. I honestly don't remember. They all blend together.
What about Brandon powders?
Which?
Brandon powders?
Bragdon?
Bragdon?
Bragdon.
The Bragdons. Again, Bragdon, it's better than if you buy your basic, cheap powder.
Right.
It does have a little bit of oil in it that will grab.
Right. What about pan pastels? That's another question.
I only have one color in Pan Pastel that I use only because you can't find it anywhere else. They do make, MAC makes an eyeshadow called Greystone. It's not quite blue, it's not quite black, it's not quite gray, it's something funky in between. And if you've ever done a steam locomotive and you're trying to do that smoke, it's not quite blue, it's not quite black, it's something funky in between. That's the color. When you put it on, it's perfect. In Pan Pastel, the only one that I've found that is even remotely close is this, and it's still too blue. I really have to work with this and add color to it to get it to that. You can still find Greystone, and yes, you can find these on eBay. People will buy colors, realize it wasn't the right color, and they'll sell it on eBay cheap. And since you're not going to be putting it on your face, you don't care. So that's another option, particularly if you don't have a MAC store near you. So do we want to do a little with an airbrush?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got plenty of time.
Okay.
It's only 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Now, there's a few things. There's some colors that I've got. I designed 2 paint sets specifically for model railroading. And they're made by Medea, which is a paint company. And it's Com Art Colors. I know you can get this on Amazon. So that's one place, if you literally don't like going out and having to get the items, you can get it there. One of the nice things is you can do track with this. And you might notice when you heard it, yes, they have little shake balls in it because these are very, very highly pigmented paints. And Some of the other things that I do is you'll notice I have a pile of brushes. And I buy brushes at all over the place. I get a lot of them at Hobby Lobby. Yeah, all of these. And I get a lot of them at, believe it or not, Sally's Beauty Supply. Do yourself a favor, pay the $5, get the Sally's card, and get a boatload of discounts. Because the difference between these brushes and the cheap hobby store ones are these are made to be used. They're very, very durable. The bristles are a much better quality. And so when you use them, they're going to last longer. Now, if you want to do something, weathering on the side, I love this brush because it's bent. I did not do that. It comes that way. And on the other end, it has this really weird little dotting tool. I can actually I can paint an eye white. If I want to give the person blue eyes, I can use this tool to do it. Yes, even on N scale, people. So hopefully you'll be able to, I've got this in angle you'll be able to see. And if you have to do this, particularly after you've laid your track, this brush is a godsend because you can come up like this along, do it, control the brush. But now you've got rust on the side of your track. Like that? Okay. Now, if you want to make it where it's not, sorry, I'm having to reach for a, there we go. Where it's not just all rust, you want to put some dirt on it. This is a color called soft dirt. And again, yes, you can mix these. I'm having to do this and not see what I'm doing, so. How is that?
That's good.
If you get a little bit on the top like I did, boop, there it goes, it's all gone. So. I can do that, then dip a little bit into the rust. Like that. So there's a lot of options you've got. Experiment, play. I mean, this is cheap snap track that I got at Papa Ben's in the junk bin. I got a little baggie with it and I can play with it. And that's how I learned to practice with my airbrushes and doing a regular dry, doing a dry brush technique. So, debating whether I should try this one because I have yet to, this is a brand new airbrush. A little bit about airbrushes. There's a lot of different brands out there. The two, if I'm going to use an airbrush, I use one of two brands, either the Badger or the Iwata. Why? Yeah, they're a little more expensive. Quality. This is my Badger. They make one called the 360. It's got a real small cup. So yeah, you have to keep refilling it, but you don't end up wasting paint. If I put the paint in here, when I'm done, it goes in the sink. I don't pour it back into the bottle. And there's a reason for it. But what's neat, let's say I've got to do a whole bunch. I don't want to keep filling this every couple minutes. I can take it, spin it around like this, take a bottle. So now I've got a siphon feed. And Ken Badger, who designed this, it's a brilliant design. I'm just not going to get around it. You can take the top here and take this off, put it on a paint bottle itself. Yeah, one of the brands, and use it. It's wonderful. This is probably my favorite airbrush here. And this is an Iwata. It's called an HPB Plus. And probably when I cleaned it last time, I didn't put it all the way in. There we go. The Iwata brushes are a much finer brush. This particular brush is about 0.15 microns. It's very, very fine. This one's 0.10. This, I can draw hair on Kelly's head or my husband. There's two basic types of airbrushes. You have your single action and dual action. A single action brush, you push down, you get air and paint. On a dual action brush, you push down for air, you pull back to get paint. So they work differently.
Which do you prefer?
I get dual action. You get a lot better control. A dual action brush, as I said, you pull down, push down, pull back. The difference is, and I can control how far back I can pull it by twisting that in and out. See, I can hardly pull it back here. That gives me more air. Pushing down is how I get my paint. This guy here is a filter. It's called a pistol grip, and it gives you something really good, really nice to hold in your hand. That guy is really cool. That, using this, I can titrate, I can control how much air. Because I tend to be heavy-handed, I can go and get the air turned way, way down here, so I don't have to worry if I'm pushing it all the way down. And then all I have to do is worry about pulling back. This is something that's a lot easier to demonstrate in person than I know over the TV screen. And I know it's going to get loud if I turn that on. But
Remember, that's why we're using these mics, it's so they balance out the room. Okay, I wouldn't be too scared.
okay,
People will tell us if they can't hear you.
hopefully that's not too terribly loud. Yeah, it's not. And mine, the compressor that I have what they call a smart jet by Iwata. The nice thing is, once it's filled up the tank, it automatically shuts off. And it won't turn back on.
It's not on right now.
It's not on. That's how quickly. When I airbrush, let me see. Helps to get that open. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all I'm going to use. That's not much paint in there. So, first thing I'm going to do is check and see. See, I can control how much paint is coming out. Now, if I want to, let's say I want to do it down here on these rivets. I am going to turn the air down a bit.
What pressure are you shooting at?
It doesn't matter, because what I do is I control it here.
Okay.
with that.
Okay.
And it's always, remember, it's lefty loosey, righty tighty. I'm sorry, but that's the only way I can remember
Okay, that's fine.
how to do it.
It's not just you. We all do it.
See, now that I'm shooting small, a lower volume air, notice how much smaller I can get that. Can you see that?
Just barely. Yeah, it's not
Yeah, I
gonna
don't
be-
have a lot on it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to show how well you can control it
Right.
with a good airbrush. And it's a little challenging to do because I'm trying to hold several things at once. Usually I'd be doing it here, brushing, and I can't do that and have you guys see what I'm doing at the same time. And so when I'm trying to hold it and everything, I'm shaking.
That's right. Sorry.
It's called, I had too much Diet Coke this morning. If I ever get it where, like right here, I made a little boo-boo, no problem. That's what brushes are for. Take a brush, just a little bit of water. Because these are water-based paints, I can take it off that easy. It doesn't get any easier, guys. Now these trucks are probably a little too heavy to do the way I like. Pardon me for a second while I step off camera and see if I can grab, because I know I've got a couple of trucks in here. Here we go. One of the really nice things about doing a car and doing an airbrush on it, how many of you guys doing it, when you do your trucks, would take them all apart? Particularly to do the wheel. Okay. Now remember, this is dual action. When I first spray, I'm not going to get any paint. A little more paint out, a little more air. There we go. So what I'll do is I'm holding this wheel set down, so this one can freewheel. And believe it or not, I can use the air to spin the wheel while I put the paint on
Seriously
it.
cool.
It's easy. As I said, if you were here, I'd let people come up here afterwards and try the brushes, because it lets you know why I don't, it's difficult to control it like this with something like a Pache. Pache is a great brush for younger kids to learn on, but if you really want to be able to do it well, these are the ones, the Badger, or especially the Iwata. So now, let's say I'm done and I need to clean up. They also make a company called Sparmax makes a little jar like this. what I can do, put my airbrush here, open it up. And what I'm doing is blowing all of my paint into here. You can barely see it in there. But anybody smell anything? No. And this is simply airbrush cleaner. There we go.
How often do you do a thorough clean on your brush?
And at the end, if I'm gonna be done for the day and I'm not gonna use it till the next day, I do. It's easy. People are, oh, I have to do all this horrible stuff. No. The other thing that I will do is take one of my clean brushes and I'll just wiggle it around here in the pot so I can clean it. Now, is that clean enough to put up? No, but it's clean enough for me to set it until for later, like if I'm going to go eat lunch, come back. Yeah,
Is that clean enough for a switch color?
generally, yes. Usually if I'm going to do that, I'll put a little bit here and I'll have some white paper towel. See, that's just coming out clean because they just make good stuff. And they're cleaner, everything works properly for whatever type paint. Don't go using this with an oil-based paint, it's not gonna work. It's just, actually, it's gonna set the paint, and it's gonna kill your airbrush. I had somebody do that one time because they didn't realize you had to use a specific airbrush cleaner, for the paint. If you're using a given paint, use the cleaner they recommend, the brush cleaner. But there's the mess. I'm not wasting a whole bunch of paper towels for it. And as you heard me say earlier, these were some brushes that I picked up yesterday at Texas Art. This one was on sale, was $4, and it was half off of that. That was $1.65, and I think that was $2.99.
That's the brand I usually buy.
This is a Zen, a Royal and Lancel. This is a Simply Simmons, and this one, I don't remember the name on it, but they've got, look for the ones with the bright red label. You'll get 3 really outstanding brushes, particularly very fine. Now, some of the other brushes that I love are these, the art nails. And there's a reason. Let me do this so I can. That long, I don't know how well you can see that. That brush, if you'd like to do hand lines manually, that's a great brush. And they've got them all the way to the blue one that's that long. And you can use this long one and just use that tiny, tiny tip also. Can you use these on With powders, absolutely. I can take one like this, use the ink tints, and then use this to draw real tiny, tiny lines. So it looks like a real tiny water line. Now, to give you an idea on some of them, this is an N scale car. Let's see if I can get this up here. How's that?
Our zoom is, yeah, we're good. That's it.
And then when I did the rust down the rivets,
Yeah, that's really clear.
okay. Now, one of the neat things I'm going to show you, I've got this car that I picked up at Papa Ben's. If any of you happen to have one of these holders, I took a couple of the tops, changed them. I put a bolt coming through it and then a little piece of coat hanger. These coat hangers will work for an N scale car, and what's nice is these little bolts will hook in where I can hold an HO or larger car like that. So while I'm working on it, I'm not having to hold it. I like my Diet Coke. I tend to get a little bit shaky. Now, some of the other, let's see, pardon me a second, because I need to get another bottle here. For instance, let's say on here, I want to go and make those letters look old. It's kind of like the paint's run. One of the things also that I do is these paints come with an air cap so that we can, it will help to keep your paint fresher a lot longer. And what I'll do when I get home after here is I'll take all the red caps, I throw them in a deep bowl and put them under the faucet and let it spin them, get all the paint off them. And then I'll clean the top of the bottles and the squirt part, and then reassemble everything. I mean, I've got some of these paints that are 10 and 12 years old. They last that long. So, let's see, here we go. This little red brush that I was showing you that's so fine. Just getting a little bit of paint on it. Let me see if I can get this over here. I just have to look at this to do it. Doing this backwards and where I can't see it is going to be a little too hard for this. How's a little tiny line like this? Can you see it, or do I need to bring it up closer? Okay.
Yeah, we'll down a little bit, but yeah, you're good.
Again, it's all your tools. I have thousands of dollars over 20 years that I have accumulated lots of different tools, brushes, everything. It's worth it. You can find and look in places that you don't expect, like beauty supply stores. For those of you who do things like pinstriping, where you like to do, could you find a brush like that at G&G or Papa Ben's? It's not going to happen. This is a nail art brush that they make for pinstriping. If you're wondering, that brush is literally that long. So it's amazing what you can find. And I think this was a $4 brush. The brushes at your beauty supply stores are going to be a lot less expensive, even though they're a real good quality, mainly because the ladies that do nail art don't make a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money to spend. So they make everything more affordable for them. So, and that's one of the reasons that when I buy my equipment, I try to find it when I can find it cheap. Like I went over looking for 1 or 2 brushes, didn't know I was going to buy 3 of them because the brushes were on sale. See what I mean about that, the brush holder here? So it's another way, it's a way to help keep it clean. So let me see. I realized I forgot to bring my box with my structures.
There's something in the bag.
Yeah. There's just one, but it doesn't have the mural. Now, let's see, this is, yeah. Now, this is just, again, this was an inexpensive couple dollar used model. One of the things that I do when I do my brick, when I do my mortar, I don't buy the expensive stuff. I use Kiwi liquid shoe polish. Honest to gosh, they're white shoe polish that nurses used to use on their white shoes. I'll squeeze it out into a little cup, add some water. And it's one of those things you gotta play with it. Eventually you'll see, oh, I've got this the right consistency. And then I take a triangular sponge, a makeup sponge. You buy a whole bag of them for a couple dollars at Sally's. Take it, squeeze it, put it in there in the white solution, and then just drag it across. And what it's going to do is go all through the mortar lines. Then you can take another one and you can kind of pat it to make sure you don't have too much. You can also do things like this. I don't know if you can see the mural.
Yeah.
That's a color Xerox, not inkjet. If you do a color inkjet, that thing's gonna run. A Xerox is permanent. So I'll go and set up a page with several little murals on it, old ads that I've done. Now you can do the originals with an inkjet printer. Just the one that you use and you put on, use color Xerox because that's permanent. Take it. I usually leave a fair amount of space around them, about this, for instance, for this size, I would have made it with at least that much, about this much space around it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take sandpaper. I'm going to take it, flip it over, and start sanding. And I'll sand it for a while, brush it off, turn it, sand some more, keep doing it until I just barely start to see the color coming through the back of that paper. I stop. Then I personally like to use scalpels. If you use X-Actos, that's fine. Make sure it's a brand new, very sharp X-Acto. Put it face down and put your straight edge over here. So if you cut and you booger it, you're gonna booger it to the waist side. Cut it out. Don't use scissors. Why? Scissors are gonna make the paper curve. It's going to do this. Then when you go and you try to put it on, it's not gonna sit right. So you've got this real fine, real thin piece of paper. Take some white Elmer's glue, the old-fashioned orange and Elmer's glue all. Don't use school glue. School glue is made so if kids get it on their clothing, mom can throw it in the washer and it will come out. If you use it on your building in our humidity, it's going to start to peel up. I learned that the hard way. So take your piece, take a brush, put your glue on your building, then take your piece of paper and drop it on carefully. Take your finger and you're going to do roll. Wipe your hand. I have a little bowl of water usually, and I'll wash and dry my hand. Do it the other way, and I'll keep doing it, particularly even if I'm doing a large one. And I've got one that's this large on a building, on an end scale building. And you just keep gradually working it because you can be pushing the glue out and pushing that down. Then I take a brush like this, one that's flat, and all I'm going to do is tap. If you do this, remember you've got wet paper. It's real thin paper. It's like toilet paper. It's going to rip. So that's how you're going to work it. Then you're going to take a little piece of paper towel. And, you know, I use the standard stuff that I use for my kitchen. And I'm going to go around the edge with it. I'm going to tear the edge. And that torn edge, because it's frayed, that's going to make it where it will absorb the glue a lot more easily. And it will absorb it off. And then I set it aside and let it dry. And as it dries, it's going to suckle down onto that brick. And it's going to look like this. It's going to look like a real mural. Other things on here. Let's see here. See. Oh. A lot of times where windows are, coming off of where the windowsill is, you're going to get a dribble of dirt. Hopefully you can still see that. I know it's going to be tough because of the color.
Yeah. The other thing I guess we should all remember is that weathering, if it's done right, it doesn't stand out, you know, it's not.
Right. It will look like it's supposed to be there. And that's the idea. Other things that I will use is I have this brush.
Denture brush?
It's a denture brush. There's two things I use this for. Being able to clean off, and this thing, if you're like me and you get nasty, nasty grout in your shower, that stuff actually works really good to clean the grout because these are very, very stiff bristles. And the brushes are cheap. If you go and you can buy this almost the identical brush at the hardware store, and they're going to charge you about $10 for what you can get for a couple dollars at Walgreens or one of the cheapy,
Dollar store.
yeah, dollar store even has them.
Leslie, this is Phil
What
Stewart.
else?
Do you
Leslie?
have a technique for removing decals?
Leslie, the question is, do you have a technique for removing decals?
For removing decals, it depends on what type of decal and how it's been set. Sometimes decals have been set with lots of dull coat. That's going to be a booger to get off. Generally, one of the things that I will use to get them off is my good friend 91% alcohol. I use this for a lot of things. If I get brushes where oops, I left the paint in here, I'll fill up this so that when I've got the brush sitting in here, the bristles are in alcohol. And I'll let it sit for about 20, 30 minutes, and then gradually work at it. This is great if it's a water base. If it's a solvent based, I'm going to have to use whatever the paint thinners for that particular kind of paint. A lot of times the alcohol, it's surprising how well it will work on dull coat. Now, if you've got a lot of it, all bets are off. But if you've got just, the standard, like it's one, a decal you put on, and you say, oh, phooey, I meant to put it on that side instead, it'll work pretty well.
JC, I had a follow-up question on this.
Phil has a follow-up question.
Okay, I bought at an estate sale some cars. Does she have a monitor that she can see me?
I'm gonna pull here.
Okay.
Phil, we should be able to hear you now.
Okay, can she see me?
She
No.
can see.
All right, okay.
not
I see
really.
me.
Okay.
Let's see.
I-
I can hold up. Give me a sec.
Okay.
I think I can.
Hey,
Nope, I got him.
You got him there?
There he is.
Okay.
Okay, she can see me?
Yes.
Okay, I bought this car at Jim Long's estate sale,
Uh-huh.
and it is exactly what I want for what I'm doing. But he's got a lot of decals on it, and this was why I was asking that. I don't know what they were originally, how they were put on or anything like that. My other concern is I really like the paint job that he's got on here because there's some weathering on here. So how can I remove these decals? And when you touch them, you can just kind of feel that they're, that they're raised a little bit without hurting the weathering and the paint behind it.
I know what I would try. I would take the car, let me see if I've got something like here. Like, let's say, see how there's a bunch here. Let's say I wanted to get that Bachman one off.
Mhm.
Again, I would start with the alcohol. I pour a little out, take a real fine brush and put it around it. And this is a case where having a scalpel would really help, because scalpels are very, very, very thin. They're about half the thickness of an X-Acto blade. And I would go and just gradually with that X-Acto blade, get under it and start to try to lift it as well as I can without destroying the paint job.
Okay.
And then get a little more and it's going to take time. It might take you a couple of hours. Like it might take you a couple hours just to get that off without destroying the paint.
Would you let the alcohol set first, or just immediately start in on it with the scalpel?
I would, I'd first put it around the edge, particularly if you can see where that edge of the decal is. I would start there and then, work it inward. And the decal is going to help protect it from the paint from the standpoint of it going through, unless that decal has been damaged somehow.
Okay. All right. The other question that I had is, you had a bottle there, a spray bottle. What solution was in that, and what did you use that for? I missed that. Yeah, that. Yeah.
Okay, this is the Medea airbrush cleaner. What it is this is the solvent for these paints.
Okay.
It's just, you can buy this in a bottle that looks like this, but it's bigger. It's about this tall, and it has a twist top on it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can buy it like this with the spray.
Okay.
So, but it's the identical material, and this is the proper thinner for this.
Okay. And the other bottle that you had, I have a note of what it was. What was that? The small bottle that you have there in front of you, the paint.
This?
What was the brand? Yes. What was the brand?
This
on
is
that?
the ComArt
Okay.
paint. And I know, as I said early on, I know that Amazon carries the Real Deal weathering set, and that's what all of these colors are from. There's two paint sets. Oh, okay, here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, no. This is the Real Deal weathering set.
Okay.
And
is
I
it-
designed this specifically for model railroading.
Mhm.
And all the paints, these are the colors of paint that are in here. And
Okay.
I actually made them to match the MAC Cosmetics. I spent almost a year working, blending, trial and error of colors to get these, to get them exact. And then when I sent it to the company, I had to send them the formulation that I used. It was like 3 drops of this, 2 drops. But they ended up taking the samples I sent them to color match. So, but these are the exact colors here of the cosmetics.
Okay. Thank you.
And then there's a second set that I have is the Real Deal scenery set, which is the set that I did to be able to use on scenery. Like on here, for instance, let's say I wanted to do something like add flowers.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. This is the scenery set. And you can also get this through Amazon. Now, see if I have one of these open, I should. By the way, you might notice when I shake these, I always have my finger over the top. It's a habit. It took one time at a national shaking it. I did it and I put paint all over the NMRA sign. Fortunately, I had a bottle of this. It was a plastic sign. I was able to wipe it off real fast. But from then on, I've always gotten in the habit of putting my finger over it. Now, that's kind of funky. Some of these have gotten, some of these paint sets, I hate to say it, I've had for years. And so I need to throw it out and replace it. Can you hand me the yellow from there? That one, yes, please.
There you go.
Because I think I can probably get this to work. Because it's kind of fun to do the flowers and it's ridiculously easy. Most people, once they've seen it done, they try it and they go, oh, I didn't know it was that easy. It looks good. And you can do it in just about any scale. I can do these as tiny as N scale and all the way up to G. Yeah, these are a little funky, so. But what I would do is take one of these really fine brushes. Dip it in the paint, and then, okay, here we go. Dip it in what I call Leslie's super secret white stuff that I guarantee you already have at your house. Any ideas?
Sugar.
Close. You're in the right room.
Cornstarch.
Huh?
Cornstarch.
No?
Flour? No?
Baking soda, not baking powder. Because the baking soda will clump. I'm going to see if I've got another one that I can use. That one might. Yeah, this one definitely will. I know this color will work. Yeah. Unfortunately, part of it is actually with the yellow color, the pigment. Yeah, that will work. So let's say I wanted to do a red flower. I'm going to barely dip my brush here Now I'm going to go straight up and down into the baking soda. I'm going to see, hopefully you can see this. And barely pick some up. I need to get a little more. There we go. Oh, no, I got it. And if you can see that tiny bit, what happens when you've got the paint and you dip it into the baking soda is it clumps. If you push it too far down, you're going to get a big clump of paint. But then you're going to take it and just flick it off. And like here, if you put one on, and when you do it, if you still see a little bit of white, let it get most of the way dry. Dip your brush again in the same color. But now you're going to have flowers, itty bitty flowers. Yeah, there's a lot more to weathering than just making something look rusty. Now, this same technique, this is where it's fun. One of the big things also that I do with my brushes is when you hear me swishing it, I'm not mashing it in the bottom of the cup. I'm literally wiggling it, let the water flow by and take care of it. Yeah, I can use this. So let's say we've got a cattle car. Now, realistically, what would you see inside the cattle car?
Cows.
And what else with the cows? What do cows make?
Political promises.
Very funny. No, seriously.
Cow poop and hay.
Cow poop. So we're going to take our brush, get some brown paint. I'm going to dip it in here. And then, this is probably actually too small of a brush to do this, but what I can use is, let's say you're climbing up onto the car. Chances are you're going to have junk on your feet, right? How'd you like to have some mud on the stirrup here? Can you see? I don't know if y'all can see that. And you can do the same thing in here. In fact, if I use, this is one of the times when I'll probably use a little bit bigger brush. Yeah, I need some more paint there. No problem. See, I mean, sometimes I'll leave it open, so I have to put my finger over it as I have it. Okay, now. So now I've got a bunch here. And so if I put an animal inside, I can glue a bunch of animals inside and then put cow poop on them. I don't know if y'all can see this.
light contrasting color helps.
There. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay. So now if I had an animal in there, get this back on real quick. Oh, the good part about having fingernails. Now, when you look inside, you can actually see poop. If I have a cow there, it's going to look realistic. You know, and it's these little things. Part of why I think of this is I'm a volunteer at the rodeo on livestock committee. I walk through poop all the time. And that's what gave me the idea. Wait a minute, if I have cattle on here, cattle are going to do what cattle do.
You could also do that for like fields where you've got cattle.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can do that. You've got a little fire hydrant on your layout. Put dog poop there. You're gonna find it. Yeah. So what else?
You want the poll group here?
Sure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're a good spot. Poor Leslie's been going at it straight here. If you got any questions, could you drop them in the chat real quick, or could you raise your hand with the raise your hand function?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Y'all are awfully shy this morning. I'm gonna say, I gotta talk to you like I talk to my classes. Y'all are awfully shy. Don't make me call on people individually.
I only wish we could have done this live, or more people had shown up live to see it, because you could have brought a car and I would have said, okay, see this? You do it. And I would have given you one-on-one instruction on how to do it.
I had a question.
That's one of the best parts when I do the Ask the MMR table at the national convention.
Phil, give me a sec here. We're gonna get you.
All right.
Here, I'll just. What's your question, Phil?
Leslie, are all the colors that you work with today in your real deal scenery kit in both of them?
Okay, all the colors that you're seeing, let me just do this. The colors that are in the weathering kit are two shades, a light and a dark rust, a raw sienna, a gray, a blue-gray smoke, a color called smoke, which is like a gray smoke versus the blue-gray, light dust, soft dust, fertile soil, and opaque white.
So only those colors today?
And then there's a few then in the scenery paint set, it has burnt umber, raw umber, let's see, opaque iron. I just have to read. I can't read upside down very well to write with these glasses. Opaque iron yellow, the deep yellow, like this, a green, sap green, a chrome green, a cerulean blue, a red, white, and black.
So it seems like the answer is yes, Phil. That's
Between the two sets, yes, you get all the
Yeah.
colors.
I had another question. I model Louisiana Sugarcane Railroad, so a lot of the trucks had, refined sugar on it. I have used some white paint and also some baking soda on there. What would you suggest to model that?
Well, what specifically are we modeling?
The actual sugar that is from a sugarcane field. It's fallen from the stalk.
So this is the raw sugar, the stalks.
Yes, it's the stalks, but it's the juice that has come out of them. And through heat on the ties,
Yeah, a second,
they have begun to, okay. Because you have the heat on the tracks, the sugar, the raw sugar has begun to refine, so it has begun to turn white. And then that in turn gets on trucks and it gets on drivers of locomotives. So I was just curious what your thought was on how to model that.
To be honest with you, I hate to sound like an idiot. I've never seen it.
Okay, I'll actually email you some pictures of it. It's
Okay.
fascinating. It almost looks like a white sidewall that they sent from the factory when they did a brand new locomotive, a brand new steam locomotive. You know how
Okay.
they would do some of those white sidewalls. So I don't want it to look like that. If I thin it too much, it looks like bird poop, and I don't want it to look like that. So it's just one of those things that I've been playing with. I've used Woodland Scenic Snow just to sprinkle a little bit of it on there, and that somewhat, helps me out with the technique. But they didn't have snow in southern Louisiana in
Mm-hmm.
in October, so I was just curious as to your opinion on what you thought would make a good substitute to make that prototypical type of weathering.
Because, without having seen it, it's a little difficult because I'm totally pulling this out of my earlobe, so to speak. If I were to try to show something like granulated sugar, the first thing I would try would be spraying something like dull coat, something wet, then sprinkling some of the baking soda in it.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to dissolve. So I have to come up with I would have to come up with a way to do that.
That's kind of the direction I've been going in. So we're on the same page.
Because I think it's, part of it also would be finding the right glue, the right type of glue to use that isn't going to melt this, the baking soda. It's not going to dissolve it and turn it liquid.
Because that sounds like that's what your problem is, I think is what she's saying, Phil.
Yeah.
That's why it looks like bird excrement.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, I think that's what I'll try. Thanks. I appreciate the tip.
Sure. The other thing is it possible, since a lot of bird excrement turns, has a little bit of tan or brown in it, is it possible that whatever that your model of the sugar cane itself, since I think that's usually brown, could it be that some of that is leaching in to this? And so it's turning a tan color.
Well, actually, what it does when it ages, it turns kind of a maroon, interestingly enough, the sugarcane stalk itself. So that is a good point. And I've got some of that on the track as well. So that's just the actual stalk itself. Because when they cut it and it sits in the field for a while, it begins to turn a kind of a maroon color from a yellowish color that it is when it's sitting out there still live.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that's a good point.
As I said, I'd have to play with it.
Okay. Well,
So,
I'll send you some pictures. The only problem with pictures is they're all black and white. There's really virtually nothing in color. I think I have one picture in color because all this stuff was 100 years ago. So it's that's my problem. I just don't have anything in color. And today it doesn't exist because there's no railroads that go through the sugarcane fields.
yeah, I would have to goof around with it since, it's in your brain. You know what it's supposed to look like, and I don't.
Yeah.
Ask me something from Chicago. Yeah, I can probably.
Thank you again, Leslie. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
I honestly don't have. So I guess my question is, on the roof of this building, you've got some interesting foliage there.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do that? How did you choose to?
Well, I wanted something up here because there are a lot of buildings in places like Philadelphia, Chicago, where part of the way that they've done to insulate the building is they put plants up there. Like they might have left a little part right in the middle and put a little table and chairs or something. But people, they'll do even vegetable gardens. And so I wanted to do just something. So I just took some standard, I think these are standard Woodland Scenics or Scenic Express, one of those, put them down and then added the little red flowers, tomatoes, whatever you want to call them, depending on what you're trying to show.
Is that the buffalo tops?
Yes, I believe so. But that's, again, it's just how you can fake it. You know, also, if you wanted to appear on the chimney, you know, a lot of times they would use things like wood, or if they had an oil burning type of furnace, they're not going to get standard brown soot. They're going to get that weird blue gray. That's how you, I mean, it's easy. It's mainly researching, thinking about colors and what will work. So what else?
JC, I'm kind of interested if she has any tips for painting on PLA plastic, like for 3D printers.
The question was, do you have any tips on painting PLA plastics for 3D printing?
Okay, I actually do some of that. Depending on what I'm painting with, if I'm putting something like this water-based paint on those, the first number one thing is wash it. Because generally you're going to get, there's release in it. Plus stuff that, however, whatever you print it onto, you know, whether it's blue tape or you've got some other material that you put down, that's going to get onto the plastic. And wash it real good, set it out on paper towel, let it dry, even overnight. Then play with it. If it still doesn't want to stick, then I would try my alcohol. I do a little thing for speakers community with rodeo. I teach kids how to make bolo ties out of Legos. And I actually 3D print little Howdy, the little rodeo guy. And I have to, when I'm done, I have to take them, wash it, then glue it.
Right.
If I don't wash it first, it won't stick. And it's the same way with your paint. If you don't wash it, it won't, I mean, even cars like this, it's not going to stick to it.
She uses water-based paint then?
She's using water-based paint,
All
yes.
the paints that I use are water-based. I don't like solvent-based paints. I don't like breathing it. And if you screw it up, you're stuck. Water-based paint is a lot more forgiving.
Right. So you haven't noticed any problems with it not sticking, or what would you use if it wasn't sticking real well to the print resin?
If it's not sticking to the resin, then there's something on it, wash it. Whether it's alcohol, you know, start with water. If that doesn't work, try maybe a tiny bit of Dawn dish detergent. If that still doesn't work, try alcohol.
Would spray can primer help the paint adhere?
Would spray can
Primer.
primer?
You still have to get rid of them.
You still have to get rid of what's on it, because a lot of times even the spray can primer isn't going to stick either, because you got something on it,
Well, it's got a solvent.
you know.
It might help cut
You still,
into it.
you
Yeah.
still.
I mean, you can try a clear dull coat, but still, you know, over time, if you put dull coat and then you try to go on top of it, it just gives it a funny look.
It's a good question, because I didn't think about it either. I use the opposite. He uses the resin deposition method. I use the resin bed.
Mm-hmm.
So mine, of course, everything has to be rinsed within, you know, with sterile quality and alcohol and to
Right.
make sure that there's no leftover resin. Otherwise, it starts melting.
Mm-hmm. And that's really kind of what I've got mine's just a basic melt standard
Yeah,
3D printer.
That's,
I've got like 3 different ones but still depend, and it also depends on the plastic that you're using. For instance, I've got 2 different ones that are glow in the dark, and they're a little weird compared to the rest of the colors. So I have to be real careful with them.
any
'Cause-
follow-ups there, Jim?
Say that again, please.
You have a follow-up on that, or?
No, I was just surprised to hear that water-based paint could be used. I thought you'd have to use a lacquer or
Mm-mm. You'd be really surprised as long as what you're painting on is clean. As I said, when I bought 3 things at Papa Ben's yesterday to use for demos. When I did, I had to work last night, so first thing I did when I was at work, I cleaned them. And I mean, I've even used things like Windex. And by the way, now that the poop is dry, I don't know if you can see
Yeah,
inside.
it's a light issue, but we can see it,
Yeah. But with an animal, it would definitely
Oh,
look like
absolutely. It's
poop.
very, very effective. Okay, guys, does anybody else have any questions? I feel like we owe Leslie an applaud she's done an amazing presentation.
Well, thank you.
I will say that this is our first hybrid presentation. I know we'll start seeing more people here. I guess one thing to notice is I've been here on a Saturday, and there are usually 8 to 10 people here. And at one point we had 16 people present. So that's an interesting thing to notice.
Good.
So, and you'll have to forgive us as we learn how to use this technology more. Thank you for being part of our grand experiment. And thank you, Leslie, for presenting for us.
You're welcome.
JC, there was one other question that was asked,
Oh, okay.
and one of the people wanted to know if she could maybe put together a material sheet, and I'll stick it on with the video if she'll send it my way.
Sure.
So-
I can do, I've got I also have a little thing that I can use as a handout that has a lot of the notes. Would that be useful?
Yes, I'd stick that on with the video, and then people can pause it and copy it down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Give me a couple of days. I've got a couple of different things I'm working on.
If
Well,
you
then
want
I'm gonna-
something done, you give it to a busy person.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So,
Well, Jim, I'm going to pass it back to you then, and we're going to help Leslie get things cleared away.
Okay, thank you. Leslie, I do appreciate your presentation. It came across very well. Sitting here on this end, I enjoyed it. It was
wonderful.
very, very useful. And JC, I wanted to thank you for setting up the cameras
Thank
and-
you very much.
and
Yes.
making this all work for us.
Well, I will get better next time, I promise.
Okay, guys, I appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to turn off the recorder and wish everybody a good day.
You as
Thank
well.
you, Jim.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.